Hello there, people of the internet. My name is Tom from the Wasted Talent YouTube channel, and today we're going to do a Football Manager 2019 experiment. What if Yorkshire were its own nation? Welcome to today's experiment. I am this blonde-haired, brown-moustached man, and we're going to go through and we're going to see what would happen if Yorkshire were its own nation in football, in terms with its own league structure, its own national teams, everything that it takes to be a nation in football, essentially. Quick apology to any Northern Irish fans who might be watching this video. Your nation and your leagues are gone to make way for this one. Only in this database though, they're still there in real life. Don't worry, I haven't, gone and attacked David Healy or anything. That everyone's fine. Don't worry. So at the top of the Yorkshire footballing pyramid, we have the Yorkshire Elite League. Yorkshire's top 10 teams, all facing each other, twice home, twice away from home. Barnsley, Bradford, Donny, Huddersfield, Hull, Leeds, my team, Rotherham United, Scunthorpe United, Sheffield United and Sheffield Wednesday. Not a lot of really elite teams in there. If you did this from, say, the Northwest, you'd have a lot more elite teams. You'd have current Champions League winners, current Premier League winners. Man United would also be there. But here in this particular part of the northeast-ish, sort of central, bit Midlandsy at times, in this gigantic county, we only have these teams as our top teams. But if we go over to the rules screen, cast your eyes to the prize money and the prize money per win, and it's not on here, but the TV money will hopefully over time boost all of these teams to be real. I want them to become real powers in Europe. And I think that's something that can happen with this database and with the way that it's set up. A couple of other things to note on here. Maximum of 15 foreign players. No nations are treated as non-foreign. So of your squad of 30 players, 15 of them have to be born in Yorkshire. Just to try and really push the national team. The national team's already pretty strong, but I just want to give it that extra nudge by making sure that the core of all of the teams in all of its divisions are made up of Yorkshire players. I've also done something a little unconventional in the league sorting rules. I've gone for results between teams, discipline record second, so 3 points per red card, 1 point per yellow, then on away goals scored, and then goal difference. But yeah, the main thing I've done here is this money. So lots of prize money in it, and 200 grand essentially on the line for every game. So it's shared between the teams if it's a draw, and the winner gets the entire purse for a win. So if you have a relatively successful season, you can get a big dollop of prize money and a big dollop of also prize money. I wish it was called something different so that sentence didn't sound as stupid. So you might also notice that there's one Champions League place up for grabs, and currently 2 Europa League places up for grabs. For those of you who are triggered and annoyed by the lack of real names on these tournaments, in order for me to name this tournament this, I had to not have the real names fixed. I could have edited the real name fixed, and I might actually do that going forward, but for now I've just left it like this. So the next step down the Yorkshire pyramid is the Ambition division. This is the 15 next best teams in Yorkshire. Such illuminaries in here as Ossett Town and Ossett United. What a derby that'll be. North Ferriby, some real names in here, and this is going to be probably, I think, the most competitive league because there's the most on the line. Again, if we go over to the rules, there's only one promotion spot, only one automatic promotion spot available, and that place gets £10 million. There's also a playoff between 2nd and 5th to get the other promotion spot, and there's also 100 grand on the line in every single game. So again, pumping the money into this second tier to try and get them into a position, because all of those teams have no money. They're not professional. They don't have paid players, most of them. So it's to try and get their stature to a point where they can be, decent sized, strong clubs, and to challenge, the Huddersfields and the Leeds that are probably going to dominate the early portion of this experiment, the other parts of this save. And the league below this one, the one that 3 teams get relegated into, is called the one-shot scramble, and it's the part of this experiment that I am the most interested in by a mile. So in this league, there are 50 teams. 50. I thought it stopped at 43, but it's just my mouse had stopped scrolling. I was confused for a second there. 50 teams with such luminaries as Roundtree McIntosh, which is the best team name ever. Handsworth Paramore, which is, not to give away too much about myself, just down the road from where I am right now. Dronfield, Dinnington, Cleethorpes, awesome. That's childhood right there. Yeah, it's a 50 team league where, again, if we just pop over to the rules screen, everybody will play each other once. So it's a bit of a look at the draw, which teams you get home, which teams you get away. If you get like the toughest teams in the league, all of them away, then that's going to be a bunch of losses for you. But to offset that, there's 100 grand on the line in every single match in this division, but you'll still get something even if you lose. Just again to try and, because there's some teams in this league that are probably going to get battered every single game, but even for those teams, there's nowhere to get relegated to. So even for those teams, they will still get a fair old bit of money come the end of the season that they can use to build better stadium, or build their stadium in the first place for some of them, and to just kind of, bring some players in maybe on a bit of money. Another thing I didn't notice on any of the previous rule screens, it's a match ban per red card. So the first red card of the season is 1 match ban, second red card 2 match, so on. Just another thing I put in. The rules and the way I've set them up in these leagues is what I would like to see in football, and it's another part of this experiment. I want to see how they work too. I've just noticed one error that I've made. I don't remember doing it, but I must have changed the ranking points that Yorkshire as a nation has, and set it to the maximum of 2,000. So the Yorkshire national team are currently ranked number 1 in the world. I didn't mean to do that. Before I do any kind of game save on this, I will undo that. I'll make a note of that now. So as picked by the AI, this is the Yorkshire national team squad. This isn't the one that I would necessarily pick, but this is what they've gone with. Goalkeepers, Yorkshire is a little light for goalkeepers. Probably the best one at the start of the game is David Stockdale. But then as you move into the defence, you've got Kyle Walker and Kyle Norton as the options at right back. I would pick certain others over Kyle Norton, maybe James Trippier of Rangers. You've got Gary Cahill, Harry Maguire, John Stones, Mason Holgate, centre backs, Danny Rose and Charlie Taylor left backs. Midfield's pretty strong. I would badger James Milner to come out of retirement as well. But you've got Lewis Cook, you've got Fabian Delph, you've got Calvin Phillips, Luke Bratton, who I'm fairly certain is Australian. And at this point, before I scroll down and reveal a couple of other names, should explain that I just changed it so that anyone who was born in Yorkshire, their nationality is now Yorkshire. That's the way I chose to do it. And so therefore Erling Haaland is in here, who you may have heard of. Those of you that play FM will have heard of him probably about 2 or 3 years ago. But those of you who maybe don't play FM as much, may have heard of him recently because he scored 9 goals in a game. But yeah, he was born in Leeds because that's who his dad was playing for at the time. Famous for being stomped by Roy Keane. He doesn't look that great on the technical sides, but he's 18 years old, and look at those mentals and physicals. Oosh. But we're not here to gush over the Yorkshire national team players. We're not here to gush over any of the clubs either. We're here to see what happens when Yorkshire has its own national teams and its own league set up. So, without further ado, let's go forward a year. And here we are then, 1 year in. And we'll start on the national screen because you can see that Marcello Lippi has been hired as the Yorkshire manager. You'll also notice that the Northern Irish flag's still there. Not sure how to overwrite the flags, but we'll just ignore that for now. They're still world ranking first. Let's see how the national team's got on. Let's see who's still in the national team. Must not click that properly. So actually, let's look who's been picked. What the main team is. Cameron Dawson in goal from Sheffield Wednesday. He wasn't in the squad at first, was he? 24 now. Is he looking any good? He's looking quite good. His mentals are terrible, but technically as a goalkeeper he looks all right. But the rest of it is very much as you'd expect. They're lined up in a 4-4-2, so Walker, Stones, Maguire, Rose, obviously. Daniel James at right mid. Rinomota in there, you might not have expected. Calvert-Lewin alongside Jack Marriott, who's injured for quite a while. Is Vardy gone then? Has Vardy retired from international football? He may well have done. And it didn't look like it went too well for them in the Nations League. They lost away at Bosnia and in Austria. And then at home to Austria they lost as well. They drew at home to Bosnia and drew away at Austria, so it didn't go very well for them at all, really. Let's have a look. Where's the competitions? Am I losing my mind? Why don't I just click this? That would be easier, wouldn't it? So they came bottom of their group and they're relegated from what stage are they at? Group 3? Yeah, so they're relegated down into Group 4. Oh, that's bad. Oh, no, this is B. I'm confused. How does Nations League work again? They're relegated. They did badly. And so attention then has turned to trying to qualify for the Euros for next summer, and that's not going too well either. They got a victory at home over Scotland, draws away at Scotland and away at Kazakhstan, and a loss at home to Switzerland. They're not doing all that well. They should probably be doing better considering the personnel that they have. But let's start then. Let's start with the one-shot scramble. And well done to Brighouse, Cleethorpes, my childhood retreat, and Stocksbridge. Oh, unlucky Sheffield, the world's oldest football club. Just missing out. They look good for next year, as do Goole and Pontefract, Harrogate Railway, in with a chance of getting promoted. But Brighouse, Cleethorpes and Stocksbridge will all move up to Ambition Division with totals of 119, 116, 110 points. What were the bottom teams on? Even the teams at the bottom are on 37. They got a handful of wins each. A very even league. There's not many gaps here. So the lowest team that got promoted won 33 games, and there's a team here in 25th, halfway down, that won 19 and drew 9. So just a few of these draws into wins, a few of those losses into draws, and you can very quickly move up into contention. This is a very big league that's very wide, and anyone can do well in it. And these 3 teams, we'll see how they get on next year in the Ambition Division. And there they are, Cleethorpes ready to go. York and Whitby, I can see, are still in here. Who got promoted from this last year then? Grimsby went up as champions. They'll be in the Elite League. 109 points. That's a commanding season. Who managed to beat them? Halifax, Harrogate and York. Halifax and York and Harrogate then all finished 2nd, 3rd and 4th. They're the only teams they lost to. And Harrogate it was that won the playoff. They were quite a long way back from the other two as well. Harrogate got past York by winning 2-0 at home. Halifax brought it back in the second leg against Guiseley. And I was not aware that I set it up to be a 2-legged final, but apparently it is. And Harrogate, the first leg was drawn and Harrogate won the second. So they'll be in the Elite League along with Grimsby. An Elite League that Leeds United walked away with. 79 points from 36 games. So not a completely dominant season, but compared to, they won it by 11 points. So pretty dominant. But it looks like it's quite even. So, separating the bottom European place in Huddersfield and, the top relegation place in Barnsley, that's only 16 points. That's really not that much. You have a few teams there that, I'm particularly looking at Rotherham and Sheffield Wednesday, who maybe will be a bit disappointed with their seasons, but, happy to survive relegation. In previous sims I've done of similar databases, this is the first version of this database that I've simmed. But Barnsley tend to come right up near the top. Barnsley actually came second on my first ever sim of this, to Leeds. And they've been relegated along with Bradford City. The Doncaster Rovers just surviving. You'll notice they've got worse goal difference, so they must have done well in their games against Barnsley. And so Leeds will be in the Champions League with Sheffield United, Hull and Huddersfield going into the Europa League. And so even though we're in the early days of these teams having money, and we've only in the first summer with them, having all their prize money and the huge amounts of money behind them, they're already spending. Look at Leeds United, 18 million on Oliver Nitcham from Celtic. Zara Costa in from Chelsea for millions. Rob Holding in from Arsenal for millions. Jack Marriott, who's a great player to have at Sheffield United, for 5 million because he's a very good striker and he will count as homegrown as part of their homegrown quota. Not quarter. There's one, Matt Crooks going to Grimsby from Rotherham for 150 grand. So Grimsby then, as you can see, newly promoted. Let's actually sort by 2 and look at Grimsby. So newly promoted Grimsby, with the money that they get for getting promoted, they're bringing in some signings. That Liam Lindsay in from Barnsley for 1 million. And not only are they bringing in signings, they're bringing in Yorkshire-born signings. So that these are players that they can put into their team to compete in the league. This is working out exactly as I'd hoped so far. Apart from maybe the national team being so awful. One thing that has happened that is a negative is competition reputation. Look at the steepness of that line. From 11th to 16th in 1 year. Maybe because of the relative, the opposite of strength, weakness. The relative weakness of the teams in it compared to some of these other leagues. But again, as they get richer and start spending their money more, that will change and it'll go back up. And here's something that I'd completely forgotten until right now, the White Rose Cup. I forgot I'd set up a cup. Of course I did. Why would I not set up a cup? A good run there from York to get all the way to the quarterfinals and to the semi-finals, where they lost on penalties. York are in the Ambition division, so they lost on penalties in one semi-final to Scunthorpe. The other semi-final contested between Huddersfield and Bradford. So lots of maybe not as expected teams getting into the final, and Scunthorpe winning it in extra time over Huddersfield. That's a bit of a turn up. I know Scunthorpe are in the Elite League, but they barely survived last season from being relegated. So that's a bit of a turn up. And so Scunthorpe then, where are they? They finished 5th actually. They did better than I thought they did. Again, some of these teams, particularly I'm looking at Sheffield Wednesday, that maybe finished further down than people might have thought. They might not have that many Yorkshire-born players. I know they have a lot of good young players, but a lot of their first-team players aren't Yorkshire-born, so they'd only have been able to register 15 foreign players, so that would have meant leaving out a lot of good players in their case. Not so much for Leeds, who have a lot of Yorkshire-born talent, which is why they've ran away with this somewhat. Huddersfield have done better than I expected, to be honest, because Huddersfield don't really have any homegrown players at all. So this is what would happen if Yorkshire had its own footballing pyramid and national teams, but this is not where this video and this experiment is going to end. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to sim forward 10 years, well 9 years from here, into the future, and we're going to see what's happened. Have the clubs grown? The clubs have already started growing at this point. They've started spending big money on big players. Will they all have grown? Will their grounds have grown? Will the league still look roughly as it does here? Or will there be smaller names have come into it and stayed here? Will Leeds have held a monopoly? Will the national team have improved? Let's see in 9 years' time. And so here we are then, 31st of December 2028 at midnight. I know that's in the middle of a season, but I just left it on holiday indefinitely while I was asleep overnight, and when I came back down and stopped it, this is where we landed, which is just too perfect a coincidence. I should have really gone to the end of this season or even the end of the one before, but we're mid-season just because it's New Year's Eve 2029. So let's have a look how the Yorkshire, the one-shot scramble, the Ambition division, the Elite League have done. And if we look over here, the reputation has come back up from down at 16 where it was, up to now 9th, just behind the Eredivisie and behind the Belgian Pro League. That's alright. For a country of this small size with these teams in it, that's fairly decent. It's clearly been monopolised by Leeds with a couple of Sheffield Wednesday wins in here. If we look at some of the player stats as well, I see that Rabbi Matondo is at Sheffield Wednesday. Let's have a look at him. He turned out pretty okay. He's lightning quick. How old is he now? 28 in this? So when did they sign him? Okay. He's had a lot of similarly priced moves in his career, so wow, this is a strange one. So he went to Fulham for 5.5 million. Then Leeds bought him for nearly 14 million for one season, then sold him to Sheffield United at a loss, who then sold him to Preston at a loss, where he did well for a season, and then Wednesday signed him for the same amount, 10 million. So he's been to 3 rival clubs in the Elite League and stayed at Wednesday for the most time of anyone in his career other than Schalke. But what about some of these regions? Georgia's Monka is both top of average ratings and goals. So let's have a quick look at him for Sheffield United. Oh, he's quite good. Ivorian, is that? Yes. Look at those physicals. He was 6'7". 6'7" with those physical stats and these technicals. Yeah, he's probably very good indeed, isn't he? I just wanted to jump onto the rules screen just to see how the league's doing financially, because the prize money does fluctuate. In a save that I'm doing on a similar database to this, we're in the 3rd season and the prize money's all just gone down. But looking at this in 10 years' time, the prize money has gone up. That might just be with inflation over 10 years, or it might be because the league's doing quite well. I think it's because the league's doing quite well, because if we look at the continental qualification, there's now top 2 places get Champions League, where it was just top, and all the way down to 5th get a decent, well, actually 3rd goes straight into the group stage, and so does top go straight into the group stage. So yeah, the league's done very well. So it looks like the strongest team in this league are Leeds, and look at the value of some of these players. Justin Kluivert is here, Renato Sanchez is here at 31, Justin Kluivert at 29 will be in his peak, going 43.5 million value. He doesn't look amazing. How has he done for them in his career? Where has he been to get to here? Oh, so he went to Arsenal for 20 million. Then 22 million to Liverpool. Never really played that much in a season for any of them. And Leeds have bought him this year for 32.5 million, and he's been pretty good for them. But despite that, and I've just had a quick look through, the best they've ever done in a continental competition is the quarterfinals of the Europa League, which is great. I thought this team would have done better. I think that's a bit of an underachievement, really. But if you look at the estimated value of the club, it's nearly up to $1 billion. Yeah, they're doing fine. They've upgraded their facilities to superb, which is what I wanted. I want all these clubs to be able to do that, to have the money to do that. Let's look at a kind of more middling one. Well, Rotherham look threatened for relegation again this year. It looks like they've clung into their status in this league. Let's have a look how they're doing. So yeah, they have superb training facilities, great youth facilities, a very high value. If you've ever played as Rotherham, their value is not that high by any means. Simon Grayson's the manager. That's funny. And all the best players look like they are new gens. A Nigerian here, Samuel Ude. He's okay. Have noticed that none of the big players in this league seem to be Yorkshire nationals. And looking at this, there's a lot of players not treated as foreign. Must have been homegrown here or been in this country for a long time. Actually, there's no one. There's only 2. No, he's not on the bench. There's only one in the starting squad for Rotherham. Then it is a Yorkshire national, and that's Kean Daly, who's pretty average. 21 years old, great passing, great vision. Not a lot else. So did I need to be harsher then with the homegrown quarters? The world ranking is down to 13. John Stones is still the captain. Mick McCarthy is the manager. Love that. They're still... that's the qualifying though against Gibraltar. Let's see how they've done. The key player is Paul Booth, who plays for Real Madrid, and he is amazing. 67 million value. How old is he? 22, and look at him. He'll be an absolute star. So did he come through then at a Yorkshire club? He came through at Leeds, and he was pretty excellent for Leeds for a few years, and then £128 million. 128 million. That's insane. Let's see if there's any others where that kind of thing's happened. Jack North at 26 looks pretty darn good as well. Currently at Chelsea. I didn't mean to click Chelsea. I meant to go to his history. Let's have a look at you. So he came through again at Leeds and had a few transfers away. Rangers, Man City, and then eventually to Chelsea for 34 million, where he's been pretty decent. So have the national teams managed to actually do anything? French Youth Invitational won that a couple of years. Under 19s Championship, they were runner-up. And that was a couple of years ago. So the squad that won that should mainly be here in the under-21s. And there is Joshua Roberts, valued at nearly 10 million, playing for Liverpool. I want to click on him, not highlight him, please. Thank you. He's pretty good. He could use a bit of rounding, he could use a bit of mentals as well, but he's 20, that could happen. Currently at Liverpool, has he always been at Liverpool? No, Leeds again. Leeds producing the players then in this league. So the senior squad in the most recent Euros lost to England in the quarter-finals. That must have been a bit of a bitter one. They went out to goals from Coutinho and Neymar in the World Cup in 2026 in the second round. So not a great Euros in 2024 for Yorkshire. They beat Iceland, then got beaten by Holland and Germany. Somehow still managed to get through, only to get absolutely smashed to pieces by Italy. And probably the biggest failure then, going out in the second round of the World Cup in 2022 to Jamaica. That is poor. And bookending this entire thing then with quarter-final defeats to England. Quarter-final defeat in the Euros in 2020 after extra time to a Marcus Rashford goal after England were down to 10 men from 7 minutes. So the Yorkshire national team, I think we have to say, has been a bit of a failure. And maybe that's because I wasn't harsh enough with the foreign player rules. I'm not sure. I might, if I'm going to do a save on with this database, which I think I will, I'm going to have to fix a few things in the editor anyway. So I might actually look at a way to try and make it harsher. I have been trying in the editor to make it so that under 21 homegrown players don't need to be registered. But for some reason, that rule, I've made it in the data, but for some reason it just never manifests in the game. I don't know if anyone, any editor pros in the comments can just tell me how it is that I actually do that. But yeah, I'm sure that I have done it, but it's just not happening. So I might have a go at doing that. But first, let's have a look at the ambition division. So Doncaster are down here and not running away with it. So Grimsby also have been relegated back down to here. Sheffield had never made it up by the look of it. Let's have a look at Doncaster. Let's have a look how they're doing financially. Estimated club value of 42.77 million. That's alright. Their manager is Kasper Schmeichel. That's cool. They've only predicted second, so they're doing as predicted. They're in the process of a board takeover. Okay. Are your players any good? Key player is Peter Holland. He's English. He's very determined and good physically at some things, but not great really, not particularly good. The one-shot scramble then, Whitby are down in here. In other saves I've done, Whitby have made it up into the top tier. So they're down at this level. Let's have a look at their overview. Let's see who they've got as manager and stuff. They've got Paul Downing as manager. Their key player is Lloyd Parsons, who's also the vice captain, and he is not good at all. I was hoping that by pumping money, the value of is 2.87 million. That's way more than Whitby Town FC. I guarantee that's way more than they've ever been. But I was hoping that by pumping so much money into the lower leagues that they'd get decent players, but it looks like that hasn't really happened. It's still the teams and the tiers are all very similar to how they were 10 years ago. So I might have to up the money on the lower leagues to give them more of a fighting chance of getting up there. I think that might be something I have to do, even out the TV time and stuff. Work in progress. I think I'm going to go back to the drawing board a little bit with this, change some of the things that I think we need to change, and then I think I'm going to do a save on this channel. Who I'm going to be for that save, I don't know, and I might have another person with me, but for now at least, that's going to be all. So subscribe to the Wasted Talent YouTube channel for more for experiments and for more Football Manager 2019 gameplay. I've been Tom. Thanks for watching. See you later.